I love this tweet because it rings so true. Forge loves helping black women in STEM. I always call Forge the troubleshooter for the X-Men, but really he's also the biggest MVP of the X-Men because he's always going to be there to help you out. He's a great support. And what I love about Forge, the majority of his adventures away from the X-Men is him supporting and helping black people, especially black women and women of color. One of the cutest interactions is when he first met Moon Girl. They met during the whole Inhuman vs. X-Men where the Terrigen Mists were poisonous to mutants. Forge built the machine, but the Inhumans broke it. Then they realized, oh shit, we gotta save these mutants, and they started working together. Now the machine that Forge originally built was huge. It looked like a transformer. Forge is freaking out because they broke the machine, and now he's like, oh god, I don't have time to build another one. And Luna Lafayette's like, why'd you build it this way? Forge is like, because I wanted it to work. Forge is freaking out because he doesn't have time to explain how this shit works, and Luna just erases the drawing he has in the dirt. And he's like, what are you doing? And she redraws the machine, but better, smaller, and more compact. And Forge is amazed. He's like, holy shit, how did you do this? A thing I love about Forge is when he sees someone as smart as him or smarter than him, he doesn't downplay it. He always gives them credit and respect. I really love that about his character. And when Moon Girl was building a homemade rocket to fly to the moon in Brooklyn, here's Forge helping her out. And this is funny because Forge is telling her, yo, this heap ain't gonna make it. You gotta run more calculations. Yo, I could get you there in the Blackbird. But Luna didn't want to do it that way. She wanted to do it her way. This was something that was important to her. And Forge wasn't talking down to her like she was a kid. He was talking to her like, yo, wait a minute, we gotta run more calculations. Which is funny to hear coming from Forge, and we'll talk about that later, but he's one that kind of plays it on the fly. But here we see when it's someone else's safety, especially that of a child, he wants to make sure everything is correct. And the Terrigen Mist is still around and still dangerous to mutants at this point, and you never know when it's gonna drop or spread. So they're still talking about calculations, and Forge is trying to reach her, but she ain't trying to hear that because she wants to fly this because she's got something important to do. And then they get trapped by the Terrigen Mist. Luna Lafayette feels bad because she's the reason Forge is out here, but he's like, yo, don't worry about it. And when they're running away, she gets the idea like, yo, there is somewhere we can go. Let's get in the rocket. She saves his life, they take flight, and they're wondering, all right, is this really gonna make it all the way to the moon? And she's like, look, I don't know if this is gonna make it all the way to Brooklyn, but the variables change and it'll keep my new friend safe. This shit, my heart, I love this, especially because they're just talking rocket science so casually with each other when building the rocket too. Another dope moment happened in Marvel Voices #1 during this whole go-kart type race. It was a bunch of different teams, and there was one from Wakanda and one from Krakoa. Of course, it's Shuri representing Wakanda, and on the Krakoa team, it was Forge and Prodigy. Prodigy's like, there's still some things I wanted to test out, and Forge is like, come on man, this is supposed to be fun. And if you ever wondered what Forge and Shuri would be like playing Mario Kart, this issue shows you exactly that, because they doing this shit for real, and they are talking so much shit to each other. T'Challa's wishing Shuri luck. She's like, I don't need luck. You see what they got me racing against? This is easy work. Forge is like, oh, we talking trash. I know we was talking trash right now. And the entire time, they are talking crazy shit to each other as they're driving around the course. Shit's going wrong with Forge's whip, and Prodigy's telling him, yo, I told you we should have put a flame retardant coating in there. Shuri's letting them know, yo, you're not as clever as you think, Forge, and Forge is telling her, yeah, but I'm clever enough to beat you, princess. This man said, is that all the mighty technology of Wakanda's got? And Shuri took that shit personally. But I mean, is it really a race without a crash? Because we see they crash into each other, and Prodigy helps Forge out, telling him, yo, we should have put some more shock absorbers in there. And Forge tells him, yeah, but then we couldn't fit the espresso machine. Which is a stark contrast to how he was with Luna Lafayette. This man Forge plays it wild and loose, and then he realizes, oh shit, Shuri was in that crash, and he goes to help her out. And she's like, what are you doing? I was out as soon as we crashed. And here we see the scene of them together just piecing it up. And Forge telling her, all right, next time, how about we cut out the middleman, one-on-one? And of course, Shuri's down, and she's still talking a little bit of shit. And I really love this because at the end, Forge is like, oh man, I really like that prototype. And there's a bunch of kids behind him like, yo, Mr. Forge, can we talk to you? Because they all want an autograph from him. And we see all these little kids that are big fans of Forge. Then at the end of the Krakoa era, we see Forge and Riri teaming up. This takes place when Orchis forced Xavier's hand and he had all the mutants walk through Krakoan gates to parts unknown. Forge found his way back by building a ship out of these spare parts, a sextant. Forge runs into Riri and he's like, oh yo, you're from Earth, right? Super cool. I'm Forge. This dude is such a charming dork. Riri's like, wait, I don't understand what's going on. He's like, you never heard the X-Men? She's like, of course I heard the X-Men. But she's wondering how he got this heap of junk to fly. Forge is like, oh, this? I built a sextant. It takes me wherever I want. Riri's like, how does that work? And Forge is like, oh, I have no idea. Riri is like, hold on, wait a minute. You're the guy that built the Krakoan gate and the treehouse and all the infrastructure on Krakoa, and you don't know what you're doing? Forge is like, yeah, that's right. I know it's really annoying for fellow engineers. He compliments Riri on her suit, says, yo, that's really cool suit. I can tell it's homemade. She's like, hold on. First of all, this is my suit. I created it, yeah, but it's not homemade like this hunk of junk you find. First of all, whoever said you're annoying was right. Forge is then saying, yeah, my old girlfriend, that was her actual mutant power. She was always right. Is Storm okay? She's alive? Riri then lights up like, wait a minute. Oh my god, you dated Storm? Yo, tell me, what is she like? They then run into an alien dragon that interrupts them. The dragon is after the 10 rings of the Mandarin. And Forge is like, wait, we ain't got those rings. And Riri's like, I mean, when you say God, right? The dragon lets him off with like a warning. Those rings are gonna cause some doom and harm if you don't get rid of them. Forge tells Riri, hey, we got off easy here. The person that be telling us the future over on the X-Men is this woman that wears a gold mask, and she's really a big bummer. Always speaking in riddles and shit. So then goes and helps Riri build these offensive weapons they need to take out Orcus. They head to Asgard, get the forge of these dwarves, and they start getting to work. Forge makes a machine that can make more machines, and Riri works on repairs. I love seeing them work together like this. And when the dwarves try to double cross them, Riri lets them 10 rings go, and Forge has to be like, hey, whoa, chill. Forge lets her know, yo, you can feed them to that void, you can take them out, you can 86 them, but do you really want them to live with that? You're not too young to make big time mistakes. Listen to people like me and Stark, we know. Riri lets the dwarves go, and Forge is like, let me guess, you were gonna study the rings, right? Try and understand them, and shit went awry, and she tells them, yeah, you're correct. They then use the sextant that Forge built in order to spread the rings back across the galaxy. And Riri's like, man, I didn't learn a damn thing. And Forge's like, you sure about that? You didn't learn something about yourself through all this? Come on, man! Come on, man! And then there's the time he adventured with Monet St. Croix. Y'all know about Nowhere, that's the Guardians of the Galaxy's location where they usually hang out. Nowhere disappeared into a black hole, and no one knows where it is, or if it's still even around. So when a young Cable came back from the future to the past, Forge had him do him a little favor. He went back in time and planted a Krakoan gate on Nowhere without anyone's knowledge. Then in the present, he wants to go and see where Nowhere is now since it got sucked into that black hole. Forge talks to Sage and Prodigy about this because they're the big brains. They think that him and Monet are going to go on the other side and just straight up die. Forge is hopeful because the gate didn't short out yet, which means the one on Nowhere is still active. So he and Monet go on the adventure, and Sage and Prodigy see them off like, yo, okay, he asked for our advice and is still going to do what he wants to do anyway. And they're just like, yeah, that's Forge, smartest idiot on the planet. Forge and Monet have this wild ride on the way to Nowhere, seeing a bunch of shit in space. When they arrive on Nowhere, Forge sees 2 bodies on the floor. He turns one over and he sees himself. He's like, oh shit, it's me. Monet's like, I'm gonna freak out if I turn the other body over and see it's me. Oh, wait a minute. I know that ass. That's my ass. Damn it. Are we dead? Forge is like, I don't feel dead. Hold on. He checks and he sees, okay, both these bodies are still alive. I think our consciousness just got removed from them. They then check where they are and they see the area of space they're in is wild. There's a huge floating head there. This is Nowhere. Forge is trying to figure out a way to get back. Monet's like, are you sure this is gonna work? I mean, you did get our minds back in our body on the second try. Forge apologizes to her about that and he's like, this is my first time as a universal knot, and if you're ready to go, do the honors and fly this thing. And we see that the machine works. It's going to take them home by making Nowhere appear. And you already know how Forge rolls. He always gives credit where credit's due, and he thanks Monet. He's like, yo, this machine, this is a shared collaboration, a child. Monet says, hey, it was great to bump brains with you. He tells Monet that it was genius to target the second largest source of gravity in the solar system. And she tells him, you would have thought of it if I didn't. This is the first time we've ever seen Monet be a little humble here. She's the perfect being, the perfect mutant. I feel like folks forget that and forget that she's also a genius, but you can always trust Forge to highlight that. When they make it back, Forge is like, okay, I don't know what Krakoa's gonna do with this whole new real estate, but it'll be fun exploring it more with you. And even though space is weird, Monet admitted she had fun. I was real disappointed we didn't get more of Forge and M being universal knots exploring the universe for Krakoa. I absolutely love this trope with Forge, and there's tons more examples too. When Echo was becoming a new host of the Phoenix Force, Forge was there to help her out. The situation didn't have anything to do with technology and actually needed Forge to delve back into his shaman roots, which I wish was explored more. There's a scene where Sync was working on the treehouse for the X-Men. He was getting all the tech together and wanted Forge to be there to overlook his work. Sync's whole ability is to take your abilities and be a better you than you. Sync was praising Forge to Cyclops like, yo man, I know Magneto can drop a whole core into a planet and everything like that, but yo, on days like this, I think Forge might be the most powerful mutant on the planet. Forge is like, I heard someone praising me, and he tells Sync, I know you wanted me over here to check your work, but yo, I'm not a better me than you are. Which is giving Sync high praise. And there was a time when Bobby Drake, Iceman, who's always known as the class clown, who grew up to become an accountant, which is wild to me, he made a quick science joke to Forge on the fly. And Forge told Iceman, yo, you're smarter than people give you credit for. You should lean into that. I love this dude, man. He might not be the most powerful mutant, but he's a necessary mutant. And also, outside of his mutant ability, he's a great support. I'm just saying, in Marvel, when it comes to allyship, MVP right here.